Go.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Melissa Mani, and I'm here to introduce the wonderful young lady named Cheyaan Jamal. And she is the winner of one of the winners of the Best Global Muslim Children's Books for a book title, Qasim's, oh, it's hard to see, but it's called Qasim's Book of Adventures. Everybody, please, I welcome you all to meet Cheyaan Jamal. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Cheyaan Jamal, and as we heard, I wrote Qasim's Book of Adventures, and I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you so much for taking the time. One of the first questions I wanted to ask you is, what was the process like of writing a children's book?
So, since it was a children's book, I knew that I could be very imaginative and creative in the way I wrote it, which in itself was really fun. However, since the story is based on actual and really devastating events, it involved a lot of research on the Rohingya people in order for it to also be accurate and informative. It was also important to create like a whimsical aspect to it to make it more engaging for kids, but it also had to be informative in such a way that they wouldn't be scared or intimidated by what the main character, Qasim, goes through in the beginning of the book. And that was probably the most difficult part about writing this story.
I see. And what inspired you to write the book? Why is this book important to you? I know you just mentioned you had to do a lot of research about actual events, and there are real stories are happening right now. I wanted to ask, what inspired you directly to write this book?
So my parents have been involved with Obat Helpers, which is the organization I will be providing 100% of the profit from the book to. And I remember one day at dinner, they were talking about the Rohingya refugees. And I realized that I knew nothing about it. And here in America, there are so many people who are not aware of this crisis. And I knew that I needed to find a way to reach all audiences, to inform them on what's happening on the other side of the world. And the Rohingya are not talked about enough on the news, and I hope that my book can at least give people a slight idea on the situation, because after learning about everything that they've gone through, they need to be seen more and know that people are fighting for them and want to help them. And hopefully my book can cause families to talk about it and cause them to research and educate themselves more on the topic. And then these kids who have read the book can tell their friends and spread the word. And many people tend to shield their young children away from these topics. But I think that it's important to include them in the conversation because, they're the future and they need to know what's happening in the world.
Yeah, definitely. And you did mention that it was really important to you to write it in a whimsical sense. So that usually, with children's books, that draws their attention and makes it a little easier for parents to bring up the topic without delving too much into it. So one of the other questions I had is, what other projects have you done in your own journey that have also given you the idea, certain ideas that came up in the book?
Well, I have been involved with a foundation called the Give Light Foundation, and through working with, it's a foundation that reaches out to orphans in different countries around the world. And I've been working with this foundation since I was in 8th grade. And I think that being exposed to, the youth and seeing what they like and what they enjoy reading, and also seeing, what they've gone through, really catapulted me to create this children's book.
Okay. And in terms of the illustrations, they're really beautiful and vibrant. I loved each one of them. Who did the illustrations?
So I worked through the website Upwork and hired a freelance, an amazing illustrator named Maruf Hassan. And the way the illustrations worked was that I wrote the text for each page and then accompanied it with a description of what I wanted the setting, characters, all the elements of the illustration design to be like, down to the very tiny details.
I see. And in terms of like the writing, did you have like was this what you envisioned in the end? Like how do you feel about the book?
I was really happy about how it turned out because it's exactly what I pictured in my head. And yeah, I really enjoyed writing it. And yes, so.
That's great. And I wanted to ask also any advice for young aspiring authors out there, because you all have great ideas. We all have great ideas, and it's sometimes in our head, and it's like getting to it and actually accomplishing it is another, conversation. So do you have any advice for authors out there, young authors out there especially?
I know this might be a little cheesy, but I honestly think don't I don't think anyone is too young to make a difference or do something that they are really passionate about. It's mainly about motivation and putting your heart into something. So if you want to write a book, write a book. It doesn't matter if you're 8 or if you're 80. If that's something that your heart is set on, you should do it.
Definitely. And if you want people to get more involved, so you did mention that 100% of the proceeds go to the organization called OBOT. And what are other ways that people could also get involved?
Well, I think that through just buying the book, people are helping. As I mentioned before, and as you mentioned, 100% of the proceeds from the book are being donated to OBOT helpers. And they have been aiding and providing proper education, healthcare, and other necessities within the Rohingya camps in Bangladesh. So people can also go to the OBOT helpers website and make a donation of their own. And also, I think that another important thing is, informing the people around you about not just the book, but about the actual plight of the Rohingya and how they can help as well. I think word of mouth is definitely a really big help.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Cheyaan. It's been an honor talking to you. We know each other already, so
Mhm.
like I feel so privileged that I actually know you, as a person. And I can't wait for people to read the book. It is a wonderful book, and I myself have a younger sister. I will be reading it with my younger sister and informing her and keeping her, aware of what's happening out there. Any last words you'd like to say, Cheyenne?
Thank you so much, Miss Manny, and thank you for having me. I'm so honored, and yes, thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Cheyenne.